You're looking pretty excited today.
I know. Let's talk about The Raid. Yeah. According to virtually every critic who saw it, The Raid 2 is one of the finest action movies ever made, thanks in part to its kick-ass fight scenes. Fight scenes, it turns out, were the result of many months of training between the actors and extras to ensure there was a level of mutual trust between them.
So we're not just talking about The Raid today.
No.
We're also talking about just martial arts movies in general.
Yeah.
And the trust, like the bond between actors, extras, anyone performing stunts.
Yeah, extras being the people the martial artists beat the ever-loving shit out of. And the best example I can think of this is like Jackie Chan, who one has his own stunt team, because obviously they're the people he trusts to work with the most. And also because all of his movies end with a blooper reel showing how much shit he ate, messing up certain like fight scenes and stunts. And like in specific regards to Jackie Chan, he's known to do literally thousands of takes of scenes to get them right, and he will rehearse with extras and his choreography team for sometimes months to ensure that the fight scene goes exactly the way it's planned. Because to minimise the risk of being hit in the nutsack by a broom handle to its absolute minimum.
I know Jackie Chan's actually broken a lot of his bones. How many has he actually broken?
According to the legend, he's broken every bone in his body at least once, which I think is hyperbole, but I think he does hold a Guinness World Record for most bones broken by an actor, and it's somewhere in the 1 to 200 bones range. So he's been injured a lot, so he knows what the fuck he's talking about. And there's a great bit at the end, I think it's like Jackie Chan Adventures, where someone asks him, "Oh, hey Jackie, how often do you get injured?" And he just starts pointing to various... He plays head, shoulders, knees and toes with shit that he's broken during movies. And there's even movies where he's in them with broken bones. So I don't know what the name of the movie is, but it's one where he's on a jet ski and he broke his foot before filming it. And in the shot that made it into the film is him with his pot on, which they painted to look like a shoe. So find that clip and put it in as an example of how much shit Jackie Chan eats during his rehearsing fight scenes.
Well, the one I saw recently was, I think, whilst filming Rogue Nation, or whatever the one after it is.
Where Tom Cruise snapped his ankle.
He broke his ankle doing a stunt, then got up and ran.
Yeah.
It's like, the Tom Cruise running joke is so... it's in his own head so much that he even runs with a broken leg.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Don't put that clip in, 'cause it's fucking disgusting.
The impact.
Even Tom Cruise himself is like, yeah, that's not a good one.
Well, the bit of him running afterwards I can find, because it's on the Graham Norton show.
Yeah, I can't believe some of the things that actors actually go through. And Jackie Chan's the most visible example, but this is in most martial arts movies. Yeah. Because obviously if you've got a career that revolves entirely around pretending to get kicked in the face, every now and again you're going to get accidentally kicked in the face. And you probably by now put in many, many clips of Jackie Chan fucking up fight scenes and injuring himself, but the one that always gets me, it's not even one where he hurts himself a lot, it's just one where I imagine it and just go... And it's the one where he's fighting with the ladder, and the ladder is a big aluminum ladder, and it snaps shut on his fingertips, and it's but then he still does the scene. And it's oh, Jackie, why? Why, Jackie? Or the other one, the story we've talked about before, where Bruce Lee hit him on the head with nunchucks. Bruce fucking Lee twatted Jackie Chan on the head with some nunchucks, and Jackie Chan, apparently, played up how much it hurt. Because back in them days, he was tough as balls. He's it really hurts. So Bruce Lee comes to him and goes, I'm really sorry, and hug him. And apparently the rest of the day, Jackie Chan kept going to Bruce Lee and Bruce Lee went... That's the thing. If I could ever go back to any moment in history, it'd be that, to see Bruce Lee giving Jackie Chan a big thumbs up, and I'm yeah, this is all I need. This is my life. My life's complete right now. Fuck going back and stopping Hitler. I'm just going to watch that moment. In specific regards to the two Raid movies, according to the fight scene choreographers, one of the difficulties of choreographing the fight scenes in those two movies was finding a balance between having it look like the actors were actually hitting each other and avoiding having the actors accidentally break the jaw of an extra or punch through the fabric of reality.
There's always those famous stories of an actor saying to the person who's supposed to punch them, this needs to look real,
just do it
for real.
Yeah, and I think if you watch The Raid, there's clearly moments in that film where the extra just drew the short straw and said, I'll just take the hit for real. And that's true of all martial arts movies where, if you watch a martial arts movie, or at least a decent one, chances are when someone gets hit, they are being hit for real. Because obviously, you can't fake some of the shit we're showing you clips of. And the example I always use is the ending fight scene of Drunken Master, where Jackie Chan kicks the ever-loving shit out of that guy while drunk off his ass on kerosene. Because those hits are real, it's just obviously they're not as hard as Jackie Chan could actually kick. And that's the inherent difficulty of choreographing a good-looking fight scene, because you have to find the balance between making the hit look real, but not having it feel real.
We were talking about something similar before, and we were talking about Rocky and how Stallone always asked people to punch him.
Yeah, people don't know, in the Rocky movies, Stallone always insisted upon like sparring for real for a couple of rounds to get footage for the fight scenes. And the one we talked about is when Dolph Lundgren did it and just sent Sylvester Stallone straight to the fucking hospital with a single punch. But yeah, that's like, you want to get good shots, and it's really, really difficult to get a good shot of someone being punched without actually punching them. And that's why, like, trained martial artists in movies, like, rehearse fight scenes for so, like, long beforehand. Like, if you don't do this, you get fight scenes like the ones in the first season of Iron Fist, where you have to cut around the fact that none of the people, like, on screen know what the fuck they're doing, and it ends up just looking terrible. Whereas you get, like, compare that to, like, a fight scene from The Raid, where, like, it's an unbroken shot of just, like, people kicking the ever-loving shit out of each other. And as I mentioned, 90% of the hits you see in those movies are real. It's just like the actors and the extras, like, knew, like, how hard the person was going to hit and knew where it was coming from, because they'd rehearsed it so many times. So they knew exactly how much to lean into it at the exact moment. And it shows in the movie, because some of the hits now look fucking brutal.
So before we get on to talking about the stunt team,
yes,
out of the Raid 1 and 2, pick someone who you think eats shit the hardest.
The guy in the Raid 2 who gets hit by the car. It's like, just put the clip in, because that guy just eats so much shit, he just doesn't expect it. And the thing is, immediately following like that thing, like, the main character jumps out of the car and beats the shit out of a lot of guys. And I showed you this fight scene, didn't I, for the guy who gets the most undeserved beatdown. Because the main character goes through all of, like, these bad guys, and he knocks them all out with one punch. But there's just one guy right at the end who, for no reason, he punches him like 40 extra times while walking towards a flight of stairs. It's like, what did that one guy do to deserve that level of beatdown?
Which guy was it in the mud who gets his leg stabbed?
Yeah, oh man, the mud fight scene in the Raid 2, like, there's so many people during that who are like, that's just harsh. Like, in the context of the movie, that guy is eating shit, because there's a big fat guy who gets tackled by like 30 guards, and they all hit him on the head with their clubs at the same time. And then there's another guy, and this is one, it's like, it's probably the most painful thing I've ever seen in a movie. And it's just like, it's not even on screen for very long. It's a guy who's crawling to try and stab someone, and he gets stabbed in his foot, and the guy drags the knife through his foot and splits his foot in half, and you're like, oh! There were so many people during that one fight, so you get their shit rocked. It's amazing. This film's great. Go watch them both.
Yeah.
They're fantastic.
So how long did it take the stunt team for the Raid to learn how to fight and pull punches the way they did?
About 18 months, for the Raid 2, which is how long the fight choreography took. Just think about that, 18 months. Like, the length of time it takes Disney to make an entire fucking Star Wars movie, these guys spent that plus an extra 6 months, rehearsing just the fight scenes to control their punches and sick-ass elbow drops, so they hit but not hard enough to cause any lasting injury. In addition to all that, the film's star, Iko Uwais, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, personally spent several months training with many of the extras he was going to beat the shit out of during the course of each movie, to build a level of mutual trust between themselves, so that in the very real event, one of them accidentally kicked the other one, too hard, they wouldn't try and retaliate in a later scene by kicking them equally as hard back in the face. That's a risk of something that could happen, isn't it? Like, if he accidentally kicked an extra too hard, and that extra got annoyed about it, in a later fight scene, they could do the same thing to him. So what he did is he worked with them and explained, look, I am going to accidentally kick you in the head just a little bit too hard. I'm really, really sorry. Let's try to not make that happen. But if it does, let's agree to not, be dicks about it. And that's a really adult way of approaching that, isn't it? Look, mate, I am going to accidentally elbow drop you in the head, but just know I don't mean anything by it.
I like how he's preemptively become friends with everybody, just so that they won't punch him later on.
Well, they all were. That's what they did. They spent so much time training together, they all became friends. And obviously, you don't want to hurt your friend. This reminds me in a lot of ways of the world of wrestling. I know if anyone says it, wrestling isn't real. But similar to, martial arts movies, wrestlers have to choreograph fights. And there's a great story from the world of wrestling about Hardcore Holly, who was apparently a huge dick to new wrestlers. And he wouldn't, pull his punches in the way he's supposed to. He'd hit people for real, and he wouldn't lean into throws and things like that, and just become dead weight to make the other wrestlers look bad. And apparently he tried this once against Brock Lesnar. And as we all know, in his prime, Brock Lesnar was a fucking animal. And the story goes that, like, Hardcore Holly's like, you know what, I'm going to haze the new guy. I am not going to let him powerbomb me, because I'm Hardcore Holly. I'm not being powerbombed. And like he hit Brock Lesnar for real during the fight, and obviously Lesnar got pissed off. So when Lesnar was going to put him in a powerbomb, Hardcore Holly went dead weight. But as I mentioned, Brock Lesnar is a fucking animal, so he lifted him regardless and slammed him straight down on his neck.
Which one's the powerbomb?
Where you lift him up into the air. And like Brock Lesnar, like obviously when you do that against a wrestler who's not being an asshole, they will lean into it for you and help you with the lift. Hardcore Holly went dead weight and tried to stay on the floor. Brock Lesnar did not want him to stay on the floor, and he lifted him up and he spiked him onto his neck to teach him a fucking lesson. And you can put the clip in of him getting like smashed into the ground and Mach fucking 3. And apparently he never did that again after that moment. And that's what the people working on the Raid movies wanted to avoid. Someone being a dick in that way and intentionally trying to hurt someone just to try and get their own back or try and show that they're better than someone else. They said, like, look, we're all, even like I'm the star, yes, but without you, this movie will not be made. Let's just all agree that we're not going to like let ego get in the way of this. Let's just work together and make a great movie. And the end result was a fucking great movie. And of course, this clip. And you know what? Totally fucking worth it. That story about Brock Lesnar always cracks me up, because apparently like Hardcore Holly was just a huge asshole. And you can find clips of him like with new wrestlers just beating the loving shit out of them, like actually punching them for real, just because he knows they can't do anything about it, because obviously he's more famous than them and he's got more pull. So if they hit him back, he can ruin their career. And Brock Lesnar's like, nah, I'm not having this. I'm going to powerbomb you. And I was like, no, you're not going to powerbomb me. I'm like, no, you're going to be powerbombed. It's like, the only choice is how hard you're going to be powerbombed. And apparently the answer was hard enough to break his fucking neck. But it's the idea though that it's like, no, I am better than you. You're not doing this. It's like, have you seen Brock Lesnar? Have you seen the size of that man's chest? It's happening whether you want it to or not. And there's the thing as well, like, if you do a lot of the throws in wrestling correctly, they don't hurt at all. And I think it's Big E from, I forget what it is now, The New Day. He's like this big, huge black guy. They say he's the best person to get thrown by, because like his finishing move just feels like lying on a pillow, because he's so gentle with you. It seems to be like Mark Henry, like the really huge, massive wrestlers, because they're so strong. They can, like, all their throws are as powerful and as painful as they look, because they're so strong. They control it all the way down, so you just land really softly. And I like the idea of just a huge wrestler putting someone to bed with a power bomb. Like Undertaker taking his like daughter to last riding her into the fucking crib. It's like, thanks, Dad.
People are always saying like, "Oh, wrestling is it's not real, it's fake." But
it's a soap opera.
Knowing when you do something wrong, or something's not done correctly, people get fucking
you can
done.
Die
like,
it's
so dangerous.
It's comparable to an action movie where, yes, it's not real, but the athleticism on display is. And that's what you should be impressed by. Like, when you see some like swanton bomb off the top of like the Hell in a Cell, the risk of injury is very real, even though the result of the match is fixed.
When you see Randy Orton RKO someone in midair,
yeah, that requires like a phenomenal amount of athleticism, and it's. Brock Lesnar's a great example of that, because someone asked him when he made the transition from wrestling to MMA, how did your training regimen change? Well, in wrestling, it was all about lifting someone up 50 times in a night. So what I do is I do 50 reps of 300 whatever fucking he could lift. He said, but when I went to MMA, I only had to throw him once. So I just went and did one rep for everything. Because there's videos of his training montage. He used to run with a fucking giant log over his shoulders and everything. It's obviously, yes, the fighting is fake, but the shit they do isn't, and they can whoop your fucking ass, as Hardcore Holly learned in the most direct manner possible. Just boom!
Seeing as we're talking about wrestling, what
Yes.
do you reckon your favourite wrestling match ever was?
Oh, it's Mankind versus Triple H.
Right.
It's the one where Triple H pedigrees Mankind onto the thumbtacks. I remember watching that and just going, how? How is this man alive? I can't believe this is a thing that was allowed to air on television. And that's closely followed by Mankind versus The Undertaker, the famous one where Mankind gets thrown off the top of the Hell in a Cell, because apparently they didn't tell anyone they were going to do that.
Wait, is Mankind the name of the wrestler?
Yeah.
I just thought it was everyone versus... Okay, carry on.
No, Mankind, it's Mick Foley,
Right.
who's wrestling The Undertaker, and it's the one where he gets thrown off the top of the Hell in a Cell. It's the famous line, by God, he's broken in half. Like, they didn't plan on that, and apparently people were super pissed off about it. That match especially is one that Mick Foley says, yeah, I kind of regret that, because like my wife and kids were in the audience when it happened. And he's like, his wife and kids just watched him get thrown 30 feet through the air. If people who are squeamish, like, don't look this up. We won't put a picture behind us. It is like, it's a bit gnarly. But like Mick Foley, one of his teeth got rammed through his top lip because of the impact of like either falling or hitting a head with a chair. And he still continued wrestling with that. And it's like, at that point, I don't give a fuck if wrestling's fake. That man's a badass. Holy balls. What about yourself?
Well, I don't watch a lot of wrestling. So...
You must have like some some matches that are stuck in your head, like the Shane McMahon, Steve Blackman one, which is where Steve Blackman was just like a karate man, and his thing was he got a stick, and he just chases Shane McMahon with a stick, and he falls off the off the rafters.
Most of the ones that stick in my head will be the ones you told me to look up. I do. I'm a big fan of The Rock, so I've seen a lot of the ones where he just reappears for no reason, runs into the ring, helps out, and then runs off.
I can't remember which match it was. I think it's a Steve Austin one where it's the Royal Rumble where Steve Austin just passes and gets knocked out in a toilet, and they just have a running camera of Steve Austin passed out in a toilet.
Which was the one where the Undertaker broke out the bottom of the stage and dragged someone to hell.
I forget what that is, but there's some fucking fantastic
I love the
ones.
gimmicks of the Undertaker, like the one where the lightning hits the ring and the entire thing collapses.
You mean the clip that they're not allowed to show because, like, how did you do this? Where they have an actual lightning bolt indoors and it nearly killed somebody.
I thought it was added. It looks like it's added afterwards.
No, there was a match back in the day.
Oh, did they use a Tesla
where
coil?
they used a real lightning bolt, and whoever's in charge of TV over anyway went, "You cannot do this again. You are gonna fucking kill somebody. Stop it. It's wrestling." If you go to the modern era, you have Braun Strowman, and I think it was Roman Reigns he was fighting, where he keeps throwing him into an ambulance, and then he flips over the ambulance. And it was done, obviously, they had a jack lift it up off screen, but someone worked out that Braun Strowman is technically strong enough to have flipped it on his own. Because he's he's just an animal. And I remember seeing that one because it's the one where he just keeps going, "I'm not finished with you yet." And he runs out off screen, just tackles people. And I love that gimmick. He's like the one of, what's it now? The Brock Lesnar one I told you about, isn't it? Where Brock Lesnar pushed the guy in a wheelchair down a flight of stairs. Or where to establish him as a bad guy, he beat up a guy with one leg.
Yeah, because I did the research on the background of that, and apparently the actual stair bit was a stunt done by someone else.
Yeah.
And then they recut back. But people complained. They thought it was too harsh.
Because Brock Lesnar pushed a guy with one leg down a flight of stairs.
And it wasn't
his mum.
But it wasn't just the guy. It wasn't just that. He'd already beat him up in the previous match.
Yeah.
He'd beat the shit out of him, put him in a wheelchair, and then pushed him down the stairs.
He's only got one leg. He's so hard.
So imagine someone putting you in a wheelchair, and then that same person shoving you down some stairs.
Thing is, though, that's how you establish a villain. That's a fucking villain right there. Oh man, old wrestling was the best. I used to love that shit.
Before the restrictions.
It's not even that, it's just the idea that some writer somewhere coked out of his mind said, let's get Brock Lesnar to push a guy with one leg down a flight of stairs in front of his mum.
Oh man. We talked before though about when wrestling just goes to like the ridiculous gimmicks.
I want it. I want...
Like the Japanese ones with the invisible wrestler.
I want wrestling to just lean into... I want, like, people coming back to pretend they're other wrestlers from the future. I want wrestling matches where they're interrupted by that wrestler from the future telling you have to lose this. I want it to become Mortal Kombat, basically. And I want everyone to wear the same outfits. I just want to see a wrestler come down dressed as Raiden with the hat, just firing lightning bolts out his fingers.
No, what you want, like, I had a roleplay character who was based on The Undertaker, who was evil as fuck.
Yeah.
He became
good.
good.
You mean The Undertaker?
Yeah, but he became a good guy.
Oh,
so
right.
what I want is, like, to get someone who's, like, a villain to be, like, resurrected as a hero, and they wear, like, white clothes and pretend they're
The
Jesus.
one that I heard was, like, when the Undertaker was about to retire, what you should have had him do is soul transfer into another wrestler. And just say that The Undertaker is a mantle passed down amongst wrestlers, and have him soul transfer into another wrestler so his streak doesn't end. So the streak can just go on forever, because that was the thing, wasn't it?
That's how they could have made Roman Reigns popular.
Just
they should have had the Undertaker transfer into Raw, and then the Undertaker just his body falls through the stage, and then you never see him again.
No, all you do is like when he gets pinned and when he lost at WrestleMania, spoilers for 3 years ago, just like have him soul transfer as the winner, so technically he still won. And then you've got like, I want that dumb shit to happen.
Then imagine the next one is Roman Reigns coming in dressed as the Undertaker from a coffin.
That'd be so good.
People would hate that though, wouldn't they?
No, I love that gimmick. I love when like the Undertaker, he went from being a weird vampire man to a biker to a World of Warcraft villain. It's fucking great.
I think the Undertaker's first entrance was it was a Royal Rumble and he just walks in. Yeah, they have the music and he has the hat.
Yeah, well, it's like Kane had the gimmick as well, where he had the fastest KO in Royal Rumble history. And there's one Royal Rumble where he walks in, kicks 3 people out of the ring, then leaves of his own accord. He just walks. That's his thing. He walks in, KOs 3 and just leaves. He's like, no one takes Kane out. Or, like, fuck it. I'm going to the Royal Rumble where Rikishi, Grandmaster Sexy, and Scotty 2 Hotty are all in the ring at the same time. And they do that dance that they used to wear. Scotty 2 Hotty does the worm, they do the dance. And then Rikishi just double fucking clotheslines both of them out of the ring to be a dick.
I need to watch more wrestling.
It
sounds so fun.
Oh, it's so good. Just watch old wrestling. It's all great.